Well, good morning. Hope you're doing well today. This is Big A coming to you from View from the Top headquarters, hanging out in our conference room this morning. Got my cup of coffee, fired up. I just started reflecting a little bit on 2019. I'm here at the office by myself. The team's not here yet. And I was thinking, what advice could I give maybe some of the people that follow us that would help them in 2020? And I could sit here with a list of best wins and things not to do and things to do and the best books that I've read this year and some of the strategies or hacks or tips, or I could do all those things and maybe you would glean just a little bit from it. But the thing I wanted to talk to you about this morning, this is going to be a little different than normal. Normally these things last 2 or 3 minutes and I'm out on the greenway exercising and I try to give you a little motivation. But I want to talk to you just for a minute about something that I didn't find out about until about 20, 25 years ago. And I wanted to do everything alone. And I did it in isolation. And I look back and I think, I did have a little bit of success early on. Robin and I were able to build a business and sell it at a young age. But just to be totally honest with you, I remember thinking back how isolated and alone and afraid I was. There was times I was scared to death and I didn't know what to do when I was 18, 19, 20, 25 years old, 30 years old. I was making huge decisions and I was doing it all alone. And I want to tell you why. First of all, I didn't even know what mastermind groups were when I was in my 20s and 30s. And it's not just a mastermind group, but it's just the willingness and the ability to subject yourself to the scrutiny of other people. That idea absolutely scared me to death because I didn't want people to know that I didn't know everything. My ego and pride was the size of the hood of a truck. I didn't want anybody to know that I didn't have all the answers. And so I would grind it out. And so many times I made mistakes that could have been avoided had I allowed myself to have trusted advisors in my life. Now, many of you are sitting there today thinking, hey, that's just where I'm at. I'm in my 20s or 30s or maybe even 40s. Maybe you're older than that. And you've never been willing to subject yourself to that level of scrutiny. And when you first do it, it is so frightening. I can't even begin to tell you. I remember years ago, it's been decades now, I was at a Mercy Me concert here in Nashville at the Curb Center. And some of you have heard me tell this story before, but I was sitting on about the 10th row, kind of center stage, about the 10th row. A friend of mine was there and he invited us to go. And so we were watching the concert and I looked up and Dave Ramsey walked by me, and Dave and I were friends. I'd been advertising on his show at this time for a long time. And he said, Big A, I want you to join my mastermind group. And I was like, I don't even know what a mastermind group is. Well, what is that? And he told me a little bit. He said, it's where we get together and we share intimately. We're very vulnerable and transparent. And I'm like, no, no, I don't want to be part of that. Are you kidding me? And he laughed and he said, hey, come to my office next Wednesday morning. I'll introduce you to the guys that I've invited to join the group and you check it out. He said, Dan Miller and I have gotten together with Ron Doyle. They had been in a Bible study together and they wanted to continue it on. So each of those guys invited a couple of guys to come to the group. And when I first got there, I was scared to death. There was no way I was going to tell them that I didn't know something. The reason is because if I told them I didn't know something, they were going to think less of me. That's what I thought. And I thought, man, there is no way I'm going to go in there and be vulnerable and transparent and authentic to these guys, because when they find out who I really am, they'll kick me out of the group. They won't even have me in the group. They're going to find out what a real knucklehead I am. And so I sat there about 2 or 3 months listening to these other guys that were older than me share about some things in their life. And I was like, dang, they don't have it all together either. I mean, like, seriously, I thought these guys had everything together. And so I sat there month after month, not really sharing anything that was intimate that was going on in my life. Until one day I decided, hey, I'm going to take a shot at this. And I shared with them an area that I was very weak in. And they embraced it. And they lifted me up and they said, this is what you need to do. Here's who you need to see. And then they held me accountable. Week after week, they would ask me, did you do this task that we gave you? Were you able to succeed? If not, how can I help you? And so that veil started coming down slowly, right? That facade that I was living, that lie that I was living, pretending that I knew everything. Well, that was decades ago now. And I can't even begin to tell you how my life has radically changed as a result of surrounding myself with trusted advisors. I just want to encourage you today as you go into 2020. Don't do it alone. Man, isolation is a terrible thing. You know, maybe you're in an area that you don't have people around you. You can get in an accountability group. You can get in a virtual mastermind where you don't necessarily need to meet in person. And quite honestly, we found those to be very effective because people will go there faster being vulnerable and transparent when it's online rather than when it's in person, because they don't have to worry about, the confidentiality in their communities. So I just want to encourage you, there's not any excuse anymore because we have such an online community now that can help you do that. But I remember laying in bed at night, wearing myself to death about the decision I was going to make the next day. I would get up, I would go through it again and do it, not with the advice of anybody else. Well, what I soon discovered is that perspective is the best thing that you could have from somebody else that is non-biased, that they don't have a dog in the hunt. They don't win or lose as a result of what they tell you. So why would they not tell you the truth? See, we only have one life experience. We only have one lens that we can see things through. Now, listen, it would be suicide to go out there in the world today and throw out all your dirty laundry to the world that has no context of you as a person whatsoever. I want you to get with people and build that confidence and build that trust. And listen, there's going to be a time where you're going to need somebody. Maybe it's not today. Maybe things are going awesome for you today. But there will be a time in your life. Life just deals us these hands sometimes that we need people around us. I can't even imagine going through some of the things that I've been through. Many of you have heard the story where I accidentally ran over and killed a pedestrian. Well, can you imagine going through something like that without your friends, without trusted advisors, without people that you can go to and say, I'm hurting right now, I don't know what to do? Or a failed business, like you're like, man, this is going to identify who I am the rest of my life. No, it's not. It's a point in time in your life. And people can talk you through that. They can say, hey, listen, I need to help you work through this. Allow me to do that because we're friends. I remember James Ryle came up to me one day over a situation I couldn't get over. And he told me, he said, you're wearing the hell out of everybody in our group. And I'm tired of hearing you talk about this same thing over and over and over. And I'm like, golly, where'd that come from? Well, the following week I went up to him and hugged him. And through tears, I said, listen, I needed you to kind of nudge me off that cliff, but he shoved me off the cliff and he got me turned around and headed in the right direction. If I hadn't invested years in that guy, and he earned the right to come and tell me that, I still probably would be in a fetal position under my desk because of this horrific failure that happened to me in my life. And I want to ask you today, who are those people for you? Who are those people that are helping encourage you and edifying you and motivating you when you need it? I got to take a drink of my coffee. Hold on just for a second. That's some good coffee right there. I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm going to drink it as we talk. But I want to just encourage you today as we start 2020. Think about who those peers are, who are those colleagues in your life that you can go to. We have such a great time in Iron Sharpens Iron. The guys in there it's more beneficial to me, I think, than the members of all of our mastermind groups. I learn every single week something. Listen, I can't, that would probably be a lie if I told you I learned something every single week. The truth is some of those meetings, when I get out of them, I go, that sucked really bad. That was a waste of an hour. Until next week when I go back and I'm like, well, this wasn't really any better than the last week. But then that next week I come back and somebody drops a little value bomb. And I'm like, what did you say? And they say it again. And I'm going to be like, that's exactly what I needed. That was the encouragement I needed. That was the resource that I needed. Or they introduce you to somebody that's in their sphere of influence and you go, this guy changed my life. This one conversation, maybe all the other 51 weeks of the year were terrible, but that one conversation, because I surrounded myself with trusted advisors that helped me, changed the direction of my life. And that's happened to me year after year after year. Listen, nothing is perfect. Nothing's going to give you everything that you need. And I would be lying if I said Iron Sharpens Iron gave you everything that you're going to need. But when you get together twice a year with 125 guys and you're in there and you're sharing these resources and ideas and this encouragement. You're doing your 12-week year, and you do that every single week. You can't help but get better. There's no way you can stay where you're at. But the other thing for me is not going it alone. The other thing for me is when I'm in that valley, and I get in that valley sometimes and I'm not motivated, I'm not always this up. Let me just be honest with you. I'm not. I get into those valleys sometimes and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to quit. I want to sell this thing. I want to quit. I don't even want to do it anymore. And then guys rally around me and go, come on, Big A, you got this. You can work through this. And I know I got confidence in you. Do you have that? Do you have that in your life today? Listen, I can tell you all these other tips and tricks and hacks that I started off at the beginning telling you. But when you have that camaraderie, you can lock arms with those guys and you can go through life together. You can overcome and accomplish anything that you want in your life. And I just want to ask you today, are you going to go through 2020 alone and isolated? Isolation is the enemy to excellence. And I say that nonstop and have been saying that for years now. But it's true. I have no reason to come to you today and tell you something that is not true. And isolation will totally wreck you. And I want to encourage you today, get in an accountability group, go join somebody's mastermind group, get people around you, meet weekly. A lot of people say, I'm going to meet monthly or quarterly. Listen, for me, a lot of life happens every 7 days. There's no way I could go 30 days and not surround myself with some trusted advisors. I need somebody to jerk a knot in my hind end every single week to keep me on a path. And I want to tell you one success story before I leave. And this is something that my Achilles heel is eating properly and working out. It's been a challenge for me my entire adult life. I'll just be honest with you. It's tough for me to do that because I think when I'm at the gym, I could be working or calling or doing something, and it's the Achilles heel for me. So my 3 accountability partners told me something the other day that's made more sense to me than anything. I'm a goal-oriented person. And Brian McRae is one of those guys that's in that group with me. And he said, Big A, I know you're a goal-oriented person. He said, I've watched you year after year after year. You crush your goals. You go after it and you crush it. But what happens to me is that I lose interest once I've obtained it. I don't care what it is. Once I've obtained it, I'm ready for the next thing. He said, you can't do that with your health. He said, why don't you make it your goal to work out 4 days a week? That's the goal. And it was a mindset shift, and it has absolutely changed everything for me. Finally went to the gym. I got a trainer. I go up there 4 days a week now, and I work out. And I can't wait to go, even seeing a few results, and I love it. But I wouldn't have had that had I not surrounded myself with people that care about me. Whatever it is for you next year, whether it's making money, it's building the relationships, it's working out, you need to surround yourself with trusted advisors that are going to help you take you to that level. I know it's a little longer today, but I want to tell you, Robin and I want to wish all of you a happy new year. You know, I've been kind of quiet for the past 2 weeks on social media, and some of you say, Big A, why haven't you been doing your talks from the Greenway? I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't had anything to say, and I just don't want to add to the noise. Just to go down there and say, you know what, so I decided to take a little break, take a little time out, and I'm going to try to do a few more of a little bit longer videos in 2020, and I'm going to select some things that I think maybe will help you, and it'll take just a little longer rather than just every single day. So listen, go out there and kill it. Go out there and make 2020 your best year ever. If I can ever help you in any way, please feel free to reach out. I'm Big A, coming to you live this morning from View from the Top headquarters. Happy New Year.